He chuckled, his mouth grazing the ancient alien statue's icy lips, a jest, a challenge, nothing more. However, his laughter caught in his throat when she muttered, "You doomed your species," as her eyelids flickered open. They claimed that the Virelli Empire's ruins were really a fable. No one thought they actually existed because they were buried beneath layers of ash, desert, and centuries of human struggle. Except from Tyler Marin. Tyler was known for pushing the boundaries of science and into what his peers derisively referred to as ancient alien fantasy. He was a Class 3 xenoarchaeologist. But to him, it wasn't fantasy. After the dreams, no. Not after his father's disappearance 20 years ago while pursuing a rumor of alien ruins on the same continent. Tyler therefore used every favor, bribe, and almost illegal backdoor to get to the new dig site with off-world mineral traces that was discovered by a small earthquake close to the Mkar Ridge first. He should never have believed what he discovered. Half buried under fallen columns of obsidian, the figure stood in the center of what appeared to be a ceremonial hall. Elevated, feminine, 9 feet tall, and terrifyingly realistic. Under the dim floodlights, her figure was carved from an unidentified mineral that glistened between blue and silver. With her eyes closed and her arms folded across her chest like a sentinel of a tomb, her face was composed. She appeared to breathe through her wide and big lips. An hour ago, they discovered the statue. Tyler prevented the team from moving it after they had argued over it. Being the first to record everything was his goal. By themselves. The dare began at that point. Through the mask of his rebreather, his aide Grant smiled and remarked, $1,000 says you won't do it. The others joined in, chanting, laughing, and filming on their wristcams when Tyler waved him away. Tyler complied. Just a joke, Right? He said in a whisper as he moved forward. He leaned forward, grazing the impossible-to-smooth stone mouth with his lips. He was hot. Then she made a move. Her eyes opened, revealing molten silver, and she let out a cry, her voice echoing inside his skull like twin echoes. Your species was doomed by you. With a pounding heart, Tyler staggered back. His team retreated in disarray as equipment clattered to the ground behind him. The room grew dimmer. The electricity flickered. Devices died and sparked. She turned her head. Under what should have been stone, muscles moved. Sand spilled from her hair like old dust scattered by time itself as she stepped down from the pedestal. With a firm voice now, she said, "You shouldn't have woken me up. Your kind received a warning." Tyler was able to speak. You're still here. Not a statue, are you? I was alive and well. I had been sealed. A backup plan. This is not where you should be. It was not intended for your kind to live. He took a step back. A kiss is causing you to threaten extinction? She paused, something inscrutable flickering in her face. Not the kiss. The turning on. Your DNA and mine are now in sync. A breach of the pact has occurred. Pact? An ancient civilizational agreement that predates your galaxy. The Virelli. The Gralen. The Accord of Starbound. We both agreed that no species should awaken what they don't comprehend. Behind him, Grant muttered, "She's bluffing. It's technology. A mental game of some sort." However, the alien raised a hand as soon as he approached her, and Grant vanished in blue flames, leaving behind nothing but his boots and a carbon stain on the ground. Tyler fell to the ground. Please, I didn't intend to turn anything on. I believed you to be merely a relic. She knelt down in front of him. Tyler Marin, you are relics. Potential echoes. You have claimed triumph while walking on the bones of giants. Yo. Tyler Marin, you are relics. Potential echoes. You have claimed triumph while walking on the bones of giants. You build more quickly than you realize. Kill more quickly than you think. Now what? Eyes tracking something far out, maybe beyond the globe, she glanced up, past the chamber. They've lit the beacon. The tribunal will arrive. A judgment will be rendered. They contained her, or attempted to, for 3 days. There were camera glitches. Drones broke down. No readings were accurate. She remained in the containment dome like a sentry, watching the stars as if she were waiting for someone, and she didn't eat or sleep. Within hours, the military arrived. The location was taken up by the UN Security Space Council. After being arrested and questioned, Tyler was eventually urged to speak with her once again. She turned as he walked into her chamber. "You came back. You have inquiries." He gave a nod. "Will we all perish?" "That depends." "On what?" "On your ability to get their attention." They guided him into orbit. He watched as the sky twisted open from a fleet carrier over the planet. Silent, blacker than black, a fissure developed. It gave rise to quiet, propulsionless ships that were bigger than cities and propelled by an inexplicable force. The tribunal was here. 3 things that were more alien than anyone could have ever dreamed about emerged in Earth's orbit. One had tendrils of lightning and was a sphere of moving liquid. Another, a Mirroran-like flashing fractal. The third, bound in ribbons of gravity, was humanoid but faceless. Through her, they communicated. Now she was their voice. Unauthorized awakening is the crime. Cross-linking in biology. Breach of the accord. The leaders of Earth pleaded. Negotiated. Dispatched peace ambassadors. They all failed. The verdict was rendered. Extinction. Tyler persisted, though. Now he recognized her name, Ceressa, as the Ceressa. As they conversed outside of walls and onlookers, she murmured that to him in the night's quiet. She used to be a diplomat who protected knowledge rather than weapons. "You won't have to ruin us," Tyler emphasized. "You can alter the result." She stated, "It's not my choice. I was programmed with the accord. It's a signal when I wake up. I am only your reflection, I am not your adversary. However, you are more than just code. Your name came back to you. Your part. You decide to talk to me." He kissed her again that night because he knew she was still alive behind the artifact, not for show or as a dare. She gave him a brief kiss in return. The tribunal hesitated. The kiss wasn't it. The connection was the cause. They saw not what mankind had been, but what it may become via Ceressa. They witnessed tenacity. Kindness. A readiness to acknowledge mistakes. However, it was insufficient. A fee was requested by the tribunal. Just one life. Hers. She moved forward, giving herself, and Tyler yelled. "I give up in return for Earth. Once more, seal me. For 1,000 more years." However, he refused to let her leave. He therefore volunteered himself. "I gave her a kiss. The accord was broken by me. Let her live. Take me. Let's live." The tribunal discussed the matter. Then a miracle occurred. They chuckled. The light shimmered from the fractal form. "This species has courage." The liquid one said, "Wisdom is not always daring. However, it is life," Ceressa muttered. "Give it to them." The gap closed. The tribunal departed. Ceressa stayed, too. Tyler and Ceressa traversed the Earth together today. She is now known to humanity as a bridge to a future that is not doomed, not as a weapon. Additionally, a plaque beneath protective glass in a new Paris museum says, Asterisk, the kiss that saved Earth, and the statue that blinked. Asterisk. Tyler, however, recalls it in a different.
The blade trembled ever so slightly in her grasp as it hovered inches from his throat. It did not shake out of terror. It was a sense of expectation. Fury. It was genetically passed down for centuries and bred into her bones. After all, she was Emberin, made to be perfect, ruthless, and effective. Human, any final words? She inquired icily. With blood drying over his jawline, the guy shackled to the durasteel pillar lifted his damaged face. He forced a crooked smile despite the split lip and the deepening bruise across his cheek. Yes, he answered in a harsh voice. You're holding it incorrectly. Kalith blinked. She hesitated for 1 second. Just one. The alien blade she was holding, a weapon engraved with antiquated circuitry and humming with low, menacing pulses, hung in midair. She growled, "You're making fun of me." "I wish," said the human. "But really, you're not holding on. Instead of using your hips to compensate, you're using your shoulder. The purpose of that edge is to flex with the blow. Instead of flowing with the weapon, you're battling it." She yelled, "I've been trained to use the Anthelion edge since birth." He cocked his head. "Then your training was incorrect." The quiet in the room became tense. A slight buzz of shipboard energy filled the Ravager's Mercy's command chamber around them. Unsure whether to step in or just take in the spectacle, a few of Kalith's best guard observed from the perimeter. Kalith pushed the sword forward till the human's flesh was kissed. His throat had a narrow line of red. He didn't recoil. Rather, he studied her with his eyes fixed on hers, examining her, as if she were the defendant. He whispered, "Why haven't you killed me?" She didn't respond. She was unaware. Most people only knew him by the term ghost, which was whispered across the shadowy regions of space, but his real name was Ryan Vex. He was described in the records as a smuggler, a former soldier, and a drifter. However, others who had met him talked about something more, something inhuman, something that could not be killed. Kalith hadn't believed the stories. So far, he shouldn't have made it through the Dekar 4 ambush. He shouldn't have been able to get away from the Ravager's Mercy's neural suppression field. And he most certainly shouldn't be that composed, bound and bleeding in front of her just before he dies. She gazed at him. He tilted his head casually, as though he was genuinely interested in her skill. Like he wasn't going to die. Her gaze flickered, and he saw it. "I understand your thoughts," Ryan remarked. "You're curious as to why I don't feel scared. Why I smile in the face of death." He gave the blade a nod. "It's because I've passed away already. Once, perhaps twice, and you would be aware of that if your records were important." Kalith's hold became more firm. "You're not unique. You are merely another artifact from the disastrous battle on Earth, a leftover," Reen remarked. "Funny. You believe that the conflict is over. That's adorable." She cut. He ducked. Or more accurately, he moved, in a manner that shouldn't have been feasible. The chains broke. The sword fell to the ground with a bang. The force spread through the chamber like a shockwave. Ryan rushed forward, pushed her against the wall, and grabbed the falling sword in one hand in a single action. He muttered, his breath warm against her cheek. "Like I said, you're holding it incorrectly." The guards yelled, "Weapons up!" With a growl, Kalith pushed him away and slid away, grabbing her sidearm in the process. However, Ryan had already vanished. No sound, no thermal signature, no trace, only a rumble in the atmosphere. They shouted, "He's breached containment. Keep the command deck locked. Activate the internal sensors. Commander, I'm offline already." Heart thumping, Kalith stood. He fell away. Not concealed, not shrouded. Simply gone. Similar to the tales they had rejected. Ghost wasn't a man. He was a message. Caliph went over the security logs a few hours later. Not moving. Loops. Glitched video of her guards firing at nothing while backing away. Additionally, there was just one frame in which Ryan muttered the words, "You need to wake up," while staring at the camera. It wasn't sabotage. It served as a warning. That night, Caliph didn't sleep. She researched. She searched the scant information the Emberan Empire had about him. There was more than battlefield gossip and combat documents. Files that were categorized were present. The transmissions were intercepted. Project EIDOLON is mentioned. Buried beneath the debris of the planet's final military records, this human augmentation project was long believed to be a hoax. Not all he was a soldier. He was created. It was 3 weeks late. It was 3 weeks later. The Empire of Emberan consolidated its hold. In the border systems, rumors of revolt began to circulate. The responsibility of finding the instigator fell to Caliph. She found a mining camp on Targan's Reach thanks to her intelligence. A barren place, hardly able to function, with dust storms capable of tearing flesh from bone. A peculiar signal in ancient Earth dialects was repeated by the outpost's beacons. Hold the blade right. Then it happened again, and did it again. The storm hit her landing. Through the shattered spires, the wind howled like banshees. Miners gathered in groups, silently and wide-eyed, watching her approach. A young girl, perhaps 10 years old, came up and raised a stick. She said, "Is this right?" The stick was taken by Caliph. Instinctively, her hand adjusted, lowered the wrist, balanced the weight. The girl grinned. "That's what the ghost said." Caliph sat by herself in her ship that night, repeatedly spinning the Anthelion blade in her hands. Her heartbeat was in sync with its buzz. Ryan was on her mind, his odd composure, his disappearance, his remarks. What did he mean when he said, "Wake up"? Was it a metaphor? Alert? Or something more profound? Something ingrained in Emberan doctrine that she had never thought to question? The console sent a ping, an encrypted, almost unintelligible message. 6 filters were applied by her. One line appeared. "You have a chance to live because of him." Caliph resigned and went back to Imperial space. An answer was required by the Empress herself. Caliph remained silent. She disappeared into the outer systems, leaving behind her armor and insignia. She followed the echoes there. They took her to an abandoned ship that was partially submerged in an asteroid field. She discovered him there once more. Ryan. Older. Weary. But with a smile on my face. "You located me," he remarked. "I didn't look," she said. "I was gaining knowledge." He arched an eyebrow. "And?" Caliph pulled out the blade of the Anthelion, kept it going. He moved forward and examined her hand. Nodded. He whispered, "You're holding it right now." They then entered the stars together. Slowly, their movement increased. Silently recruiting, Caliph and Ryan rekindled Earth-loyal colonies, freed former comrades, and blocked Emberan supply lines. They taught others how to look as well as how to fight, the way to ask questions, methods for waking up. She became into more than just a fighter. She turned into a representation, evidence that even Emberan perfection is subject to change. As they set up camp on a wrecked freighter over Ventros 9 late one evening, Caliph inquired, "Why me?" Ryan kept his eyes on his diagnostics. "Because you were hesitant. I became weak because of that." "No," he replied. "You became human because of that." They stood together in front of the Great Archive, the Empire's memory center, and an unfallen stronghold during the last days of the Emberan era. The truth was inside. The actual past. Recordings of the Holocaust on Earth. Every Emberan creed contains lies. Commander Tavarik, Calith's erstwhile tutor, was watching over it. The Tavarik snarled, "You embarrass yourself." "And for what purpose?" A myth? The Enthelion blade was in Calith's hand, not shuddering. Without hesitation, completely still, she remarked, "I used to believe in you." Tavarik made a lunge. She moved out of the way. Like lightning, the sword moved. Silently and with pride, Rian watched as she put the blade to her mentor's throat and disarmed him. "Any final remarks?" she inquired. Tavarik scoffed. Stepping next to her, Rian whispered in her ear, "He is holding it incorrectly." Calith grinned. She then brought the blade down. He didn't have to be killed. The power of the truth was greater. According to legend, the Emberan Empire collapsed within a few weeks after the broadcast from the archive. According to some, the first peace crops were planted on New Earth using a plowshare made from the melted blade that Calith used. She still carries it, according to others. She will also explain to you why she fights. Because I once learned how to hold it correctly from someone.